When I was 13, I believed in forever. Forever friends. Forever promises. Forever trust. Back then, my world was small. Just our neighborhood in a quiet town in Ohio, where the biggest drama was when the cafeteria ran out of pizza before you made it through the lunch line. But inside that small world, there was one person who made me feel like anything was possible. Emily. Emily wasn't just my best friend, she was my anchor. She lived 2 streets over, and we'd been inseparable since kindergarten. We built blanket forts in my living room, shared secrets in whispered voices under the covers at sleepovers, and made pacts that no matter what happened, no matter who came into our lives, it would always be me and her against the world. She was the kind of girl everyone noticed. Blonde hair that shimmered even on cloudy days, a laugh that made people turn around just to hear it again, and confidence that I could never quite figure out. Meanwhile, I was me. Brown hair always in a messy ponytail, hand-me-down hoodies, and a nervous smile that never seemed to come out right. But Emily never made me feel small. When I was with her, I felt like I belonged. And she made me believe her words. I promise, no matter what, I'll always stand by your side, she told me one summer evening when we were sprawled out on her trampoline, staring at the stars. You're my forever person, okay? People can come and go, but you'll always be my best friend. At 13, I clung to those words like they were stitched into my heart. Because for someone like me, who sometimes felt invisible at school and misunderstood at home, having a best friend who swore she'd never leave meant everything. By the time high school rolled around, things started to change, like they always do. New faces appeared in our hallways. Cliques began to form. Suddenly, popularity wasn't just something you saw in movies, it was walking the same corridors, laughing in the same classrooms. Emily fit right in. It was like she'd been born for high school. Within weeks, she was sitting with the cheerleaders at lunch, her Instagram blowing up with likes and comments. She got invited to parties I only heard whispers about. But here's the thing, she still made time for me. She'd call late at night and tell me how fake everyone seemed, how she only felt like herself when it was just us. I don't care about them, she'd say. You're the only one who actually knows me. And I believed her. Because no matter how different our world started to look, I was sure our bond was stronger than popularity, stronger than whispers, stronger than everything. Until the night I told her my secret. It wasn't something I planned to share. Honestly, I'd promised myself I never would. But Emily had a way of pulling the truth out of me. It was during one of those late night calls, when my chest felt too heavy to hold it in anymore. I whispered, can I tell you something? But you have to promise, like really promise, you won't tell anyone. She laughed softly, like I was being dramatic. Of course. You know me. I'd never betray you. And so I told her. I told her about the nights I cried myself to sleep because I felt like I'd never be good enough. Not for my parents, not for school, not even for myself. I told her about the way my dad's absence had left this gaping hole inside me, one that my mom's tired smiles couldn't fill. And then I told her the part I'd never said out loud to anyone, that sometimes I felt like disappearing would be easier than pretending I was okay. When I finished, there was silence. For a second, I thought she'd hung up. But then she whispered, oh my God, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You know I love you, right? You can trust me. I'll never tell anyone. Ever. My chest loosened for the first time in months. For once, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight alone. And in that moment, I believed her more than anything. But promises. Promises are fragile things. It started small. A shift I couldn't quite put my finger on. Emily stopped answering my calls as quickly. At lunch, she waved at me from across the cafeteria, but didn't save me a seat anymore. When I walked past her in the hallway, she was always surrounded by people, her laughter blending in with theirs like I'd imagined our late-night conversations. Then came the whispers. At first, I thought I was paranoid, but I could feel the stares lingering on me, the way people's voices dropped to hushed tones when I walked by. One afternoon, as I bent down to grab a book from my locker, I heard it. She actually said she wanted to. You know, I froze. She told Emily she cries herself to sleep every night. Like, how pathetic is that? My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to be sick right there in the hallway. My secret. The one I trusted Emily with, the one I thought she'd protect, it was out. And not just out, but twisted into something cruel, a story to laugh about. I slammed my locker shut and ran. That night, I called her. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. When she finally answered, her voice was casual, like nothing was wrong. Hey, what's up? You told them, I blurted, my throat tightening. You told people what I said. There was a pause, then a sigh. Look, I didn't mean for it to spread, okay? I just, I told Madison because I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe she could help. And then she told someone else. And it wasn't supposed to go this far. My heart cracked. You promised. You swore you'd never. I know. And I'm sorry. But honestly, maybe it's for the best. Maybe people will finally understand why you're so, I don't know, quiet all the time. Her words cut deeper than the betrayal. Quiet all the time. Like that's all I was to her. I hung up. And for the first time since kindergarten, I realized something I never thought I'd feel. Emily wasn't my forever person. She was the person who had just broken me in a way I didn't think was possible. But this was just the beginning. Because high school is brutal. And when your best friend turns into your enemy, it's not just about broken promises, it's about survival. The Monday after everything came out, I walked into school with my hood pulled up, praying no one would notice me. But people always notice when you're at the center of gossip. The hallways buzzed like a beehive. Laughter, whispers, side glances. Everywhere I turned, I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing against my chest. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. It was real. Is it true? A girl from my math class whispered as I passed. Did she actually say she, you know, wanted to end it? Another replied, not bothering to lower her voice. I kept my eyes down, gripping the straps of my backpack so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I wanted to disappear, to sink into the tiles beneath my sneakers and never come back up. At lunch, the loneliness was unbearable. For years, I had always had a seat next to Emily, our table, our spot. But now, when I walked into the cafeteria, she was sitting at a crowded table near the center, her back to me, surrounded by the same girls who were laughing at me just days ago. I stood there, tray in hand, hoping she'd glance up and wave me over, maybe mouth an apology. But she didn't even turn around. Instead, Madison, a girl I barely knew, looked right at me and smirked. You're not sitting here. The table erupted in laughter. I felt the burn of tears behind my eyes, but I forced myself to swallow them down. Crying here would be like bleeding in front of sharks. They'd circle, they'd attack, and I'd never survive. So I turned, walked to the corner of the cafeteria, and sat alone. That became my new normal. Day after day, I ate by myself. I walked the halls by myself. I even stopped talking in class, afraid that every word I spoke would just become more fuel for their whispers. My life shrank into this small, suffocating bubble where silence was my only shield. But the thing about silence is that people use it against you. She doesn't talk because she's crazy. I heard she sees a therapist, like, every week. Maybe she's dangerous. The lies twisted and grew, spreading like wildfire. And at the center of it all was Emily, laughing louder, shining brighter, while I faded into the background like I was nothing more than a shadow of who I used to be. The worst part wasn't the bullying, it was the betrayal. Every time I saw her in the hallways, every time I heard her laugh, every time I caught her looking at me before quickly turning away, it was like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. She knew what she had done. She knew she had broken me. And she didn't care. One night, after another day of avoiding stares and whispers, I sat on my bed with my journal in front of me. Writing had always been the only place I could be honest without fear. My pen shook as I scribbled across the page. You promised me forever, Emily. You promised you'd stand by me. But now you're standing with them, and I've never felt more alone. Why wasn't I enough for you? Why wasn't our friendship enough? The ink smudged as my tears hit the page. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to erase every memory we'd ever shared. But hate didn't come easily. Instead, there was just this hollow ache, like a part of me had been ripped away. Still, life didn't pause for heartbreak. Tests still needed to be taken, teachers still called on me, and my mom still asked how school was going over dinner. I lied every time. It's fine. Because how do you tell your mom that your best friend, the person who knew your darkest secret, had turned that secret into a weapon? How do you explain that the girl who used to hold your hand during scary movies now acted like you were invisible? You don't. You just bury it. But secrets buried too deep start to rot. The turning point came 2 weeks later. I was walking to my locker when I saw it, scrawled across the whiteboard in red marker inside my English classroom. She's crazy. Watch out. My name was written underneath. The room buzzed with laughter as people pointed, phones out, snapping pictures before the teacher came in. My stomach dropped so fast, I thought I might collapse right there. I turned to leave, but then I saw her. Emily. Standing in the back of the room. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't saying anything. But she also wasn't stopping it. She just stood there, her arms crossed, watching me like I was a stranger. Our eyes met for a split second, and in that moment, I saw something I'll never forget. Not guilt, not regret, but indifference. Like, I didn't matter. Like our years of friendship were just gone. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. If she didn't care, why should I? Something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in determination. I couldn't let her destroy me. Not like this. If Emily wanted to stand with them, fine. If she wanted to let them laugh, fine. But I wasn't going to keep shrinking just because she decided I didn't matter anymore. For the first time in weeks, I picked up my phone and opened the Notes app. Instead of writing in my journal, I started typing. Not just about her, but about everything, the loneliness, the betrayal, the way high school turned friends into enemies overnight. And then I posted it online. Not with my name, not with my face, but anonymously. I created an account, one where I could speak without being silenced, one where my pain could be turned into something that maybe, just maybe, someone else could relate to. At first, no one noticed. But slowly, people started following. People started commenting. Thank you for writing this. I feel the same way. This is exactly what I needed today. Are you me? Because this feels like my life. And for the first time since Emily betrayed me, I didn't feel completely alone. I had no idea back then that this anonymous account, the words I poured into the void, would soon become the very thing that changed everything. Not just for me. Not just for Emily. But for everyone who thought they knew the truth. Because secrets have a way of coming back. And when they do, they don't just hurt, they burn everything in their path. The thing about pain is that it demands to be heard, even when you try to silence it. For weeks, I had bottled everything inside, letting Emily's betrayal eat away at me until I was nothing more than a ghost in my own life. But when I started posting online, something shifted. I called the account Silenteco. It was just a random name at first, something I came up with in the middle of the night when my chest felt heavy and my fingers trembled over the keyboard. But the more I posted, the more I realized how true it was. I was the echo, the voice no one at school cared to hear. But online, that echo bounced back. People were listening. The first post was raw, almost like a scream I hadn't realized I was holding. When someone you thought would be your forever turns into a stranger, it feels like drowning while the person who once promised to save you just watches from the shore. I hit post, expecting nothing. But within hours, there were likes, comments, people who didn't know me, people from other schools, other towns who said, This. This is exactly what happened to me. Reading this makes me feel less crazy. I thought I was the only one. For the first time, my pain wasn't just mine. It was shared. It was understood. And that was addictive. I started posting every night, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning. Each post was a piece of my truth disguised as a universal story. I never used names, never mentioned Emily or Madison directly, but the emotions bled through the words. Betrayal, loneliness, survival. The account grew faster than I ever expected. From 20 followers to 200, then 2,000. By the end of the month, Silenteco had nearly 5,000 followers. And with that growth came something I hadn't felt in so long. Power. Because while Emily ruled the school with her perfect hair and a crowd of followers, I was quietly building an empire of my own. Not in the hallways, but online. A place where my voice mattered. A place where people actually cared. Of course, it didn't take long before the post started circulating back at school. I remember the exact day. I was walking into history class when I overheard two girls whispering, Did you see Silenteco's new post? It's like, exactly about Emily. Everyone knows it's her. My heart jumped into my throat. Emily? They thought I was writing about her? Well, I was. Just not in a way I ever expected anyone to figure out. The whispers spread quickly. Suddenly, the same people who used to mock me were glued to their phones during lunch, refreshing Silenteco for the next update. And the queen herself, Emily, wasn't happy about it. I noticed the shift almost immediately. She stopped laughing as loudly at the lunch table. Her Instagram captions suddenly sounded defensive, like she was trying to prove she was unbothered. And then came the confrontation. It happened after school one Friday. I was walking home when I heard her heels clicking behind me. I froze as Emily called out my name. Hey, she said, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. We need to talk. I turned slowly. She looked perfect, as always, but her eyes were hard. Are you Silenteco? She demanded. My heart raced. What? Don't play dumb. Those posts? Everyone thinks they're about me. About us. And honestly, they're making me look bad. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. Maybe they're not about you. Maybe you just feel guilty. Her jaw tightened. So you admit it? I didn't say that. She stepped closer, her perfume filling the space between us. Look, I don't care what you're doing online. But if you don't stop, I swear, you'll regret it. For a moment, I almost shrank back into the girl I used to be, the one who ate lunch alone and kept her head down. But then I remembered all the comments from people who said my words helped them feel less alone. I remembered the way my heart felt lighter every time I pressed post. So I straightened my shoulders and met her glare. You already made me regret trusting you. What more can you do? Her eyes flashed, but she didn't respond. She just turned on her heel and stormed away. That night, I posted again. The people who betray you will always try to silence you. But your story is yours, and no one can take it away unless you let them. It blew up. Thousands of likes. Dozens of shares. My phone buzzed with notifications until the battery nearly died. But with the rise of Silenteco came something I wasn't prepared for. The truth had a way of cutting deeper than I realized. Because not everyone online was kind. Some comments were cruel. Stop being so dramatic. Maybe your friend left you because you're toxic. Crybaby much? And as much as I tried to ignore them, those words sank into my skin like tiny shards of glass. For every 10 people who supported me, one person tore me down, and sometimes that one voice was louder than all the others. But the real storm hit 2 weeks later. It was a Friday night, and I was scrolling through Silenteco, reading messages from strangers thanking me for sharing, when I got a DM. From her. From Emily. Emily, I know it's you. You think you're clever, hiding behind some fake account. But everyone knows. And if you don't stop, I'll make sure the whole school hates you even more than they already do. My hands shook as I read it. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might break my ribs. She knew. But what struck me wasn't her threat. It was her fear. For the first time since she betrayed me, I realized something. Emily wasn't untouchable. She wasn't invincible. She was scared. Because no matter how popular she was, no matter how many people laughed at her jokes or liked her pictures, deep down she knew what she had done. And my words were reminding everyone of it. I stared at the screen, debating whether to respond. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling. Then I typed back, "Me. Maybe you should have thought about that before you betrayed me." I hit send before I could stop myself. Her reply came almost instantly. "Emily, you'll regret this." But the truth was, I didn't. Not anymore. Because for the first time since losing my best friend, I wasn't the one drowning. She was. What I didn't realize, though, was that Emily's next move wouldn't just be about silencing me. It would be about destroying me. And she was willing to do whatever it took. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that when someone feels cornered, they'll do anything to protect themselves. And Emily? She wasn't used to losing control. After I replied to her DM, I expected her to back off. I thought maybe, finally, she'd feel the weight of what she did to me. But instead, she doubled down. Hard. It started with whispers. She's obsessed with Emily. She's making that whole account just to get attention. She's lying about everything. By Monday morning, the hallways were buzzing with it. The same people who once devoured my posts with wide eyes were now second-guessing them. And at the center of it all was Emily, carefully playing the victim. I saw her in the cafeteria, sitting with Madison and the others, shaking her head like she was sad, like she couldn't believe I'd done this to her. She had this way of twisting things, making herself look like the wounded one. "Silenteco is spreading lies about me," she said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I don't even know why someone would do that unless they're jealous." Jealous. That word hit like poison. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand on a table and tell the whole school what really happened. That she was the one who betrayed me. That she was the one who turned my pain into gossip. But my voice had been stripped from me long ago, and the only place I felt safe was behind the screen of Silenteco. So that's where I fought back. That night, I posted, "Some people are masters of pretending. They'll smile in your face while twisting the knife they stuck in your back. And when you finally speak your truth, they'll cry victim to anyone who will listen. Don't fall for the act." The post blew up. More likes than anything I'd written before. More comments. People defending me, saying they knew exactly the kind of girl I was talking about. But Emily wasn't going to let me win that easily. The next day, she escalated. It happened in third period. A notification popped up on my phone, a new Instagram story. Emily's story. I almost didn't look, but curiosity got the better of me. When I opened it, my heart stopped. It was a screenshot. A screenshot of a text. From me. A text I had sent her months ago, back before everything fell apart. It was one of those late-night confessions when I had told her how worthless I felt, how I sometimes wished I didn't exist. She had saved it. And now she was posting it. The caption read, "This is the kind of stuff I've had to deal with. Maybe Silenteco should stop pretending to be the victim." I nearly dropped my phone. My vision blurred as the blood drained from my face. She hadn't just betrayed me back then. She had kept my pain like ammunition, waiting for the perfect moment to fire. And she just fired it. By the time I got to lunch, the story had already spread. People weren't whispering anymore. They were staring. Some with pity, others with disgust. I grabbed my tray and sat in the corner, but even there, I could feel the weight of their eyes pressing down on me. I wanted to sink into the floor. I wanted to vanish. When I got home, I locked myself in my room, tears streaming down my face. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications, some supportive, others cruel. Silenteco is fake. She's just using her depression for clout. No wonder her friend left her. I curled up on my bed, clutching my pillow, the walls closing in around me. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was war, and I was losing. But then something happened I didn't expect. Among the flood of cruel comments, there were DMs. Not from strangers this time, but from people I actually knew. A girl from my English class. A guy from biology. Even a senior I'd barely spoken to before. Each of them said the same thing. I saw what she posted. That was wrong. You don't deserve this. For the first time, cracks appeared in Emily's perfect facade. People were starting to question her. People were starting to see through the act. And that gave me strength. That night, I opened Silenteco and typed the hardest post I'd ever written. Yes, I've struggled. Yes, I've cried myself to sleep. Yes, I've had moments when I didn't want to exist. But that doesn't make me weak. That makes me human. And if you've ever felt the same way, you're not alone. I hit post and waited, my heart pounding. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments from people thanking me for being honest. Some even shared their own stories, dark, painful stories they had never told anyone. It was bigger than me now. Bigger than Emily. Silenteco wasn't just my voice anymore. It was theirs too. But Emily wasn't done. 2 days later, another story appeared on her Instagram. This time, it wasn't just a screenshot. It was a picture of me. A picture from middle school, one of the worst ones ever taken of me, my hair frizzy, braces gleaming, eyes wide like a deer in headlights. She had added a caption. This is the girl who's been hiding behind Silenteco. Pathetic, right? My stomach dropped. It was over. She had exposed me. Within hours, everyone at school knew. My phone exploded with messages, some supportive, most not. Wow, I can't believe it's you. Figures. No wonder she's bitter. By the time I walked into school the next morning, it felt like the walls themselves were closing in. Laughter echoed down the halls. Whispers hissed in every corner, and Emily stood in the center of it all, smiling like she had won. But what she didn't realize was that exposing me didn't end Silenteco. It only made it stronger. Because now, I had nothing left to hide. And when you've lost everything, you become unstoppable. The morning after Emily exposed me, stepping into school felt like walking into a battlefield. Every whisper was a bullet. Every laugh was a knife. Every glance felt like someone dragging my secret through the mud all over again. But here's the thing about humiliation. Once it's complete, once every piece of you has been torn open and displayed, there's nothing left to lose. And when you have nothing left to lose, you stop being afraid. By third period, I had stopped hiding. I walked through the hallways with my head up, even though my stomach churned. The whispers didn't stop, but they no longer had the same power. If everyone already knew, then why should I keep shrinking? That night, instead of running from the exposure, I leaned into it. I logged into Silenteco and typed my longest post yet. Yes, I am Silenteco. I didn't create this account to hurt anyone. I created it because I was broken. Because I trusted someone who betrayed me in the cruelest way. Because I thought my pain didn't matter. Until I found all of you who reminded me it does. If you hate me, fine. If you think I'm pathetic, fine. But don't tell me my voice doesn't deserve to exist. Because it does. And so does yours. I hit post and let the words sit in the open. For the first time, my truth wasn't hidden. It was raw. Exposed. And I refused to apologize for it. The response? Overwhelming. Support flooded in. More than I'd ever seen before. Strangers. Classmates. Even adults who somehow stumbled onto the account. They wrote paragraphs about how my words helped them through nights they didn't think they'd survive, about how seeing me stand up even when humiliated gave them courage. But with that support came something else. Attention. By the end of the week, Silenteco had blown past 20,000 followers. Local pages were reposting my words. Teachers whispered about it. Even the school counselor pulled me aside and said, I don't know if you're the one behind that account, but whoever it is, they're making a difference. And Emily? She hated every second of it. Because the more people supported me, the more her own cracks started to show. At first, she tried to play it off. She strutted through the hallways, chin high, posting selfies with captions like, unbothered, always winning. But the truth was spreading. People who had once clung to her every word now gave her side eyes. Some stopped sitting with her at lunch. Others whispered about how cruel it had been to post my private texts. One day, I even overheard Madison, the same girl who had helped spread my secret, say, honestly, that was kind of messed up. Emily snapped back, but the damage was done. Her perfect facade was cracking, and for the first time, she wasn't the center of admiration. She was the center of doubt. But she wasn't about to go down quietly. The final blow came during Spirit Week, when the entire school gathered in the gym for a pep rally. The bleachers were packed, music blasted, cheerleaders danced. Emily, of course, stood front and center with her squad, her smile plastered wide for everyone to see. I sat high up in the bleachers, clutching my phone. My heart raced, not because of the rally, but because I knew this was the moment. I had drafted a post the night before, one that told everything. Not just about me, but about her. About the betrayal. About the night on the trampoline when she promised me forever. About the way she weaponized my pain. About how popularity mattered more to her than loyalty. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't full of insults. It was simply the truth laid bare. I looked around the gym, the energy buzzing like static. Emily was laughing, flipping her perfect hair, acting like she still owned the world. And then I pressed post. Within minutes, the gym shifted. I noticed it first in the front row. Someone's phone buzzed, then another, then another. Heads bent down, eyes widened. Whispers rippled through the bleachers like wildfire. Emily's laugh faltered. She glanced around, confused, as more and more people pulled out their phones. The music blared, but all anyone cared about was the new Silenteco post lighting up their screens. I watched from above as her face paled, her smile fading. Madison nudged her phone toward Emily, showing her the words. Emily's jaw tightened, her eyes scanning frantically. And for the first time since this war began, Emily looked small. The truth was finally louder than her lies. After the rally, chaos erupted. People cornered her in the hallways, asking if it was true. Some demanded apologies. Others simply walked away, disgusted. Her kingdom was crumbling, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. That afternoon, she found me. I was at my locker, shoving books into my bag, when her reflection appeared in the metal door. You ruined me, she hissed, her voice trembling, not with anger, but with fear. I closed my locker slowly and turned to face her. No, Emily. You ruined us. You ruined me when you told my secret. All I did was tell the truth. Her eyes glistened, and for a second, I almost saw the girl I used to know, the one who lay beside me on a trampoline under the stars, promising forever. But that girl was gone. You don't get it, she whispered. Without them, without their attention, I'm nothing. And that's when it hit me. All this time, I had been grieving the loss of a forever friend, but Emily had been fighting to protect something else entirely. She didn't care about me. She cared about being seen, being wanted, being adored. And I had finally taken that away. I'd rather be nothing than betray someone who trusted me, I said softly. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. That was the last real conversation we ever had. The weeks that followed were strange. People started sitting with me at lunch again, not out of pity, but out of respect. Teachers treated me differently, like I wasn't invisible anymore. Even my mom noticed. You seem lighter, she said one night over dinner. Like you're finally breathing again. I smiled, for the first time in what felt like forever. Because she was right. I was breathing again. Silenteco continued to grow, not because of the drama with Emily, but because I kept writing. I kept telling the truth, my truth, other people's truth, the messy, complicated reality of being young and hurt and trying to survive. And every time someone commented, "I needed this today," I remembered why I started in the first place. Not to get revenge, not to destroy Emily, but to remind myself and everyone else that our voices matter, even when people try to silence them. Especially then. Emily eventually faded into the background. She still had friends, still posted pictures, but she never regained the power she once had. People had seen behind the mask, and once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. As for me, I learned something I never thought I would. Forever isn't always a person. Sometimes, forever is finding your own voice when you thought it was gone. And even though I lost my best friend, I gained something so much more powerful. I gained myself. Epilogue. Looking back now, it's almost surreal. There are nights I still miss the girl Emily used to be. Nights I wonder if things could have been different if she had just kept her promise. But then I remember the girl I became because of it. The girl who refused to stay silent. The girl who built something out of her pain. The girl who discovered that the loudest voice isn't always the one shouting in the cafeteria. It's the one that whispers into the dark and still finds a way to be heard. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've felt that silence too. Maybe you've been betrayed. Maybe you've been broken. Maybe you've been made to feel like your voice doesn't matter. But I promise you this. It does. Your voice is your forever. And no one, not even the person who once promised they'd never leave, can take that away.